Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the TA Fit My Motivation podcast. I just want to review on last week's episode with Steve Lane. Just got some excellent feedback off quite a number of people, to be honest. It was went down really well. The conversation we had about the topics that we covered was very in-depth, and I think everyone really appreciated that episode, so we're going to be trying to do some more episodes like this in the near future. But in this episode we have Willie Tonga. He's an ex-international Australian player and he represented Queensland on a number of occasions. So he's a well-decorated rugby league star, to say the least. I used to play with Willie at Lee, and the reason that we wanted to get on was we were both kind of a quiet type of player. In terms of off the pitch, we quite kept ourselves to ourselves, quite unassuming, misunderstood in a way. And I just wanted to get Willie on because he has we basically just had some really good stories and how we dealt with certain situations in our careers and how we grew into playing. And it was just a good conversation to have a back and forth chat to see how stresses and strains of life in rugby and sport affected Willie, and how he kept things quiet throughout his 16-year playing career, and how he revealed to me on this episode that he was suffering from anxiety and depression. So and I've been through those things as well, so I just think this episode is really good, really insightful, and a little bit of a peering behind the curtain for how certain people deal with anxiety and stress, and how they take it out on themselves, how a lot of people turn to drugs, alcohol. And so just in this episode, take it with, I kept it as raw as possible. I didn't want to edit the things out that potentially could have been offensive or to someone or to other people. So I wanted to keep it as raw as possible because I wanted to make sure that these conversations need to be out there. They need to be raw and uncut, because at the end of the day, these issues are happening throughout sport, and especially I know through rugby, like epidemically, can cause many issues, not to just the players themselves who are suffering, but also to their family members and their peers around. So anyway, I don't want to get into too much depth. You'll hear about it in this episode, but please listen, please share, please like, please comment, and I will catch up with you at the end of this episode to review what's going on. So please enjoy. Here's episode 8 with Willie Tonga. Got me?
Yeah, brother.
How's it going, man?
Good, bro. How are you?
Yeah, good. What have you been up to?
Not much, eh? Just slowly getting back into work.
Yeah.
Not much at all, bro. How you been?
Not bad. Just crazy with what's going on in it. Just trying to get back on my feet. Trying to find a bit of a pathway after rugby and stuff. Just still just chipping away and stuff. But just want to.
Yeah.
It's just one of them. You just got to try and find another pathway for yourself. Once rugby ends, you're just like, oh, what do I do with myself? Where do I go? What kind of path do I take? So that's where this kind of whole things kind of grown from. So I've just started to try and find something for myself instead of just having because rugby was so structured for me. It was so easy to just wake up, train, and blah blah blah. Whereas now it's you just that structure's gone, so it's quite difficult. But anyway, I just want to catch up with you on a personal level first, just what you've been up to, because it's been last time I spoke to you was probably when you just said was with me and Rennie who were having a few drinks.
It was 2019. It was 2019, 2 days after my birthday, and I don't know where you boys were, maybe at Rennie's or something.
But so we went. So I got we was at the same club together, and I got kind of friendly with you. Was it? In fact, it was probably the time when I was on the train back from was it the Challenge Cup final? Was it we ended up bumping into each other on the train. We went with separate groups. We were both playing for the same team, but we went with separate groups. Ended up catching up with you on the train on the way back for 4 hours train journey on the way back, and that's where I really hit it off with you then. But let's go. What do you want to do? Go on, carry on.
I'll take it back a little bit because I've been thinking about it, and when I signed with Lee, I think you might have been injured.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't know that. And because you didn't come in till later. And I heard when I was signing the contract, I heard them mention your name, and they're like, "Oh, what are we going to do about Tom?" Something like that. It was, who's Tom?
Yeah.
And then I didn't think anything of it. Met you maybe a couple of weeks later, or when I came back to training, and we didn't talk, man.
No. I think what it was, right? What it was I was that year, the year before that, I was playing really well, and like I got approached by Warrington, by Saints, and by Wigan, and a few others. And I think the naivety of kind of my age at the time, I think I was like 25 maybe, and I was like obviously playing well, just feeling good about myself. And then when they approached me, I think it kind of like got to my head a little bit, and I was like, oh yeah, like obviously I felt like I deserved to move up back to Super League after I'd been to Super League. Then I went to university, and then I started playing well again for Lee. And then I think like I didn't think of the bigger picture, and I just was like, oh, I want to kind of go. And then I spoke to Derek, and I spoke to Rose at the time, and they were like, well, you've got a year left on your contract. And then I was like, oh, well, I spoke to my agent, and my agent was trying to back me to say, you know what, you're good enough, you should do this, blah, blah, blah. But in retrospect, I probably should have just been, happy with that fact that I had another year. Everyone was looking for me, and I should have just played out like that year. But the reason that you came in was because I was advised, probably ill-advised at the time, to take a knee, kind of, and to wait for the offer to come in. So I was like sat there, and like my agent was like, "Oh yeah, Tom, they'll come good for you. They'll sort it out." Blah blah blah. Obviously, it didn't pan out that way. I then had to sit on the sidelines for 3, 4, maybe 5 games, and then they signed you. Obviously, but there was no you weren't to know any of the backstory of what was going on. In fact, I don't think many people would have known. So obviously, there's that. But we never got talking. I think because straight away it was like, oh, he's a centre, I'm a centre, and there's obviously a little bit of like, well, there's always that, isn't there? When you're playing, there's always like a little bit of you're always competing against your next centre, aren't you? You're always like that. So I think that's the backstory of why I wasn't playing. So like then you come in, and then obviously you come in, and then that's where that's where I met you, obviously, originally. So I want to just go away from us. I want you to talk about yourself and like how you got into rugby, your early life, like, so growing up, your mum, your dad, where you from, your ethics, your background, kind of religion, everything that you can kind of give a synopsis of who you are if people didn't know who you were and where you came from, kind of thing.
So I was born in Canberra, which is the capital of Australia. My mother's Aboriginal, Indigenous Australian. My dad's Tongan.
Yeah.
And we grew up in a little country town outside of New South Wales. Just upbringing. Yeah, it was simple, but yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm the oldest of. I'm the oldest. There's 2 brothers, 2 sisters. When I was about 10 or 11, we moved to another little country town, to a Bible college, because my dad's a minister.
Yeah.
So we went there for a couple of years, and yeah, we moved to another little country town up in Queensland, and that's kind of where I started playing rugby league, just because of my mates were.
Yeah.
And yeah, sort of fell in love with it. Didn't really take it serious until I was around 16, 17.
That's like pretty late. That's pretty late to start to take it seriously, to be fair. But
yeah, I just wanted to play with my mates, really.
Yeah.
And I guess, the more that I fell in love with the game, I got hungrier and started training by myself. And it wasn't like, my dad told me, if I stuck to it, I could go a long way. And my uncles would tell me that as well. But it didn't register until some complete stranger told me that.
Yeah.
Enough to go all the way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Because you don't like, no matter what, your parents and like your family members always back you, don't they? They're always going to say, "Oh, you're brilliant, this, brilliant that."
Yeah.
Until it comes from, like you said, a complete stranger, you don't realize what you've actually got there. I suppose that's where you kind of that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and like, I high school, that was the white community,
Right.
and yeah, it's pretty. There's a long story behind it, but
well, we've got time if you want to get into it.
Well, when when Australia was colonised and Captain Cook came over, and then they just try to separate Aboriginals, like taking kids from their families.
Yeah.
And they call that the stolen generation now. So I know people that are older who are part of that stolen generation that don't know their parents, their family, don't know anything about their background. Some of them were put in white communities, white families, and that's how they were brought up.
Right. And this is only like 2 generations ago. So.
Yeah. The beginning of the, I think it was 1900s.
Right. Okay. So it's like 100 years ago. It's not too.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah. It's like when you look at it, it's not long ago at all.
No.
But yeah.
So you were in one of these missions kind of, and then so you were kind of like you in your mission was kind of obviously a heavy Aboriginal or Black population, and then you went to school, and then that was kind of your first kind of introduction to kind of like mixed ethnicities as such.
Yeah, I in other country towns that I lived in, where my dad went to Bible college, we were the only Indigenous family in that school.
Yeah.
The whole school was pretty much white.
Yeah.
And then us. And that was pretty tough.
Yeah.
Experiencing racism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then when we moved to Cherbourg, which is that mission, like a lot of us would go into the white community to go to school, and that was my high school. And
so you think those kind of like experiences is of how old you in high school there, you kind of was that kind of instrumental in how you developed as an older man, as a man going into rugby, or was it kind of, did you like just brush it off, or did you just have to develop a thick skin? Was it kind of like, did that become like instrumental to you, or was it kind of like, oh, just it is what it is kind of thing?
It was like, this is how we were brought up, within the Aboriginal community. We'd go to school, and then, like I had friends that were non-Indigenous,
yeah.
But we'd go back home and then, just be around the Indigenous community. The hardest part for me was moving from a little country town, maybe 1,200 people, to Sydney by myself.
Right.
And for the first year, I was living with family friends, and then the second year, I moved in with like house parents, and so there were 4 other boys, all of them, like the whole family and the the other boys were non-Indigenous.
Yeah.
And then there was me. And, you know, back then I was very shy. You know, I wouldn't say boo. And so that was hard trying to, I think I was 17, 18.
Right.
Yeah, that was hard trying to
like fit in, I suppose.
yeah, trying to fit in and being away from my family and having to learn how other people live.
Right.
Yeah.
So like being 17, 18 was kind of your first experience on your own in a sense, like outside of the township, outside the mission. Like this is you living on your own for the first time, and you've gone from there to was this presumably to pursue obviously professional sport? Yeah, so you've kind of like gone into this little group of four, and you've kind of just been thrown together. And you being that me knowing you are a bit like me in a sense that like you're not the loudest person, and you're quietly unassuming, but then also you like it takes a while to warm up to you, and like you can do with me, like you can do. It's not the fact that I'm. A lot of people get me wrong in the sense that if they take me for face value, I kind of can look a little bit ignorant or sometimes arrogant because I'm not as forthcoming with going up to someone and be like, "Yo, how's it going, man?" Like trying to join in with the chat. And I know I think you're a bit similar to me in that way. So I found it really hard. You were 17, 18. I found it really hard when I was at Saints, when I was at Saints for the first time when I was coming through the academy process, because there's so many big characters. Like, and then you get thrown into a first team, they called it the Jets, where you were like a feeder into the first team. And so riffing off what you kind of said, it was similar for me in the sense that I was not from really a rugby kind of family or rugby background. My dad played football, semi-pro kind of level. And then I was like, once picked up rugby, and I wasn't from around the same town. So I was like from a football town it's only 20 minutes down the road. But then me trying to fit in with that group, I was a bit like you in the sense I just felt like a bit quiet and trying to like prove myself like quietly, but not fitting in well and not gelling with a lot of people because I was came across a little bit maybe moody, but I wasn't. I was just trying to fit in, and I didn't know how to do that. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, 100%, man. A lot of people, they think that because I'm quiet and I'm quite reserved, I've taken that as you said, ignorant and stuck up and kind of too cool to want to talk to.
Exactly.
That's not it. I'm not going to lie. I thought you were ignorant.
Nice one. Yeah, but it's back at you because we was in the same. We're like training in the same gym, and it's a small gym. But then I didn't know how to approach you, but vice versa, you didn't know how to approach me. It's like this kind of standoff. Like
there was one time. I think it was our day off, and it was just me and you in the gym. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and I had physio, and you had physio. I think we were both like, I was like, we're just like both stretching or whatever.
Yeah. There was one particular time I remember. It was just me and you in the gym. It might have been our day off or something.
Yeah.
And I think we might have said hello and that was it, but there was no conversation. I'm like, what have I done, man? Like, I honestly thought that.
Isn't it funny though, like, because I'm going in there thinking, oh God, I don't know what to say. Like, because I knew you as a rugby player from afar, but like, I'm not a big watcher of rugby. Like, I never have been because my family's like sport, but I knew of you. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, I knew who you were, knew your name and whatnot. So I felt like, and to be quite honest, a lot of my experiences with like kind of go through rugby, like when foreign players came in and like was like challenged me for a position, they were a lot more aggressive and a lot more like boisterous than I am, and a lot more like had a lot to say. And so like I did have a few times previously in different clubs a lot of hate because I was like that, quite quiet, and then I didn't know how to take. So that situation I probably felt a little bit awkward because I was like, I don't know whether he doesn't like me either, but I'll just be quiet because I'm like I'm like the younger one, so I was like expecting you to kind of come and speak. I know it sounds like proper childish, but it just was like that.
Yeah, no, I get it, but I remember that day. Yeah, we were in there for like an hour, but I might have said hello, and it was awkward, man. But,
Nice one.
yeah, it's cool, you know, that we're able to, like, you know, talk to each other. You know, you'll message me now, and I'll message you, but yeah, awkward time.
It's mad, isn't it? But it's mad how like you can't like all these things that like develop. You just don't know, like, because I like just looking from my point to you, I was just like a bit worried that you'd be like judging me and vice versa. So you obviously were just like, why is he not speaking to me? Have I done something wrong? But clearly from your end, it looks like you've come in and I'm in a mood with you because you're challenging me for my position, kind of thing. So I can see exactly how it's like unfolded and how it ended up like it did. So let's go back to you being with your group of four, and you're about to. Who you signed for here to start with?
Parramatta.
Para, yeah. And so how did you move from there to then obviously let's like kind of you obviously you ended up playing Origin, you ended up playing internationally. So how did the like your club kind of synopsisize how your club level kind of developed and then into your kind of Origin and then international? Because I want to get onto some obviously chats about mental health and whatever we can in terms of fitness, mindset, motivation kind of things and whatnot. So I just want to kind of keep it as because everyone like people can Google you and know who you are, but like I want to try and get a bit more about who you are as a person as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so I moved to Sydney as a 17-year-old. I ended up playing first grade as an 18-year-old. Like everything, moved so quickly. And then after that, I struggled in first grade because my coach at the time, I'd never been more scared of a man other than my dad than the coach of the Parramatta Eels at the time. And
who's that coach? Who's the coach at the
time? Brian Smith.
I didn't say Brian Smith who was coached over in England.
Yeah. I think it was Wakefield.
Yeah.
So he was my coach at the time. And I haven't spoken to him about it, but I've thought about it a lot, and the way he used to treat me, I always wondered, was he trying to break me?
Yeah.
So I don't. And the thing with a lot of country boys and especially Indigenous boys, they've got all the talent in the world, and when they move to the big city, they really struggle, and they just go back home, and you never hear of them again.
Yeah.
And so I thought, the way I got treated by him, I thought that he was trying to break me, so to see if I'd go back home.
I think that generation of like coaches and stuff that happened a lot because, again, I'll just give you a little example of what happened to me. Is like when I was I came through Daniel Anderson. Daniel Anderson was like sound. He was obviously quite a. The thing is, Saints were winning at the time, so it was like he was quite an aggressive coach, but he got the job done, and he was like, he knew if you weren't on the line, you'd get told off, but like if you were doing well, he'd praise you, like, and everyone was equal, kind of like you'd get praised. So would one of the like Kieran Cunningham or Liam Price, that like whoever they get praised, like, but then if you did something good, you get praised. Well, even as a kid, you know what I mean? Just like 17, 18, but then when Mick Potter came in afterwards, it was like a totally different scenario. Like if I felt like a lot of the time, I was worried that anything I did wrong was going to be like scrutinized, criticized. You'd get a bollocking in video, and those kind of things, like public humiliation things that happen quite often. I was late for training once because I don't know, I can't remember what happened. It was literally just a case of a couple of minutes late. And for the next 6 weeks or 8 weeks, he had me cook everyone's barbecue breakfast on a Saturday. And at the time, I was on like pennies, and so I had to pay for the breakfast and cook everyone breakfast every Saturday or Sunday while I was 17th, 18th man. But like, I'm not even joking. 8 weeks, I was thinking, he's just really trying to like break me, and he's like getting all the lads against me. And I was like, I didn't need that enough as it was, because I was like quite a quiet guy. And it was just like, honestly, I felt like that as well. And I've not really mentioned much about it, but since you said that, I thought, you know what, it is. He was like that.
Yeah, it does happen, and I think, especially when we started, you know, it was a lot harder. Like coaches came down on you a lot harder, and you know, going in too far into it. I feel a lot of the boys now, yeah, what I see is that a lot of the boys, they need that baby. They need to be babied through, you know, and they're not showing that, you know, whether you call it tough love or whatever it may be, or even just when you go in with you're one of the rookies and you've got these older boys around, and you know, they talk down to you. Now you've got these young boys that'll give it back. You know, they sort of, that respect level is sort of gone out the window. That's what I've seen, anyways. Yeah, but
So you were, yeah, Brian Smith, go on. Yeah, you're saying.
Yeah, so yeah, I wasn't sure whether he was trying to break me, and it got to a point where I was playing first grade, but I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I didn't want to be there, and so I played 5 games the first year. Second year, I played 3 games, and I was happy to. All I wanted to do was just play reserve grade. I didn't want to train with the first graders. I didn't want to play first grade. And then, yeah, the year after that, I signed with the Bulldogs, and yeah, I was starting first grade, and you know, that's the year I made State of Origin and played from the country.
So like the Bulldogs, that's the squad with like Sonny Bill, obviously yourself, and
Rennie, Willie Mason. Yeah, we had a lot of the big dogs there.
Yeah.
We made the grand final that year.
Yeah, and so like going from Para playing 1 or 2 games a year, and then being thrust into that kind of team, was that like would they like kind of welcoming? Was it because it was a bit of a younger squad, wasn't it? Like they're all like similar. They were quite a younger group than, and I think that kind of helps like narrow limit like level the playing field in terms of like the social side of things, because like I think what happened with you at Para was like a little bit with me at Saints was like that feeling of always having to prove yourself, always trying to fit in with the older group, and always having to do something spectacular. Where I think when I like kind of went to Lee, I know it's different kind of level, but when I went to Lee, it's like all the lads were similar age, and it was so easy to just like well, and everyone just like respected you for playing well and just training hard, and like you just got that respect like across the board. Whereas no matter how hard I trained and how fit I was, like that was my kind of thing, being the fittest on the team. And no matter what I did for Saints, it just wasn't enough. And I think that, like you, I felt like, oh God, I just really don't want to play today, or really, I don't know, that sounds like so, what's the word, almost sounds like, you know, imagine how many people would bite your hand off to be in that situation kind of thing, and you're like kind of, you're shunning it, but when you're not happy, it's so hard to perform when you're not happy, and I think that's how I ended up. But then you went to so you gone to Bulldogs. Did you find that same thing where you just instantly gelled with the group?
Yeah, you're so right, and I got along with all the Parramatta boys, but they were older, and so I struggled to find my place within that team.
Yeah.
And then when I did go to the Bulldogs, yeah, a lot of us were young, and you know, Sonny hadn't made his debut yet. Rennie hadn't made his debut yet. Roy Asatasi. So we're the same age, and yeah, I felt just a lot more comfortable. But in saying that, and I don't mean to sound cocky, but I knew I was a first grader.
Yeah.
When I was like, I knew that I could play first grade, but like you said before, if you're not happy, then you're not going to perform.
Mm.
And I didn't want to play first grade. I wasn't happy there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from the Bulldogs, you obviously had a good season, and then you kind of that's when you met Rennie. That's when you met Sonny, and then that's when you've gone to you've got selected for Origin. So just on a level, because I've never even really spoke to you about Origin or spoke to you because it's not really a thing that you do. It's like you go, oh, how was your game? Yeah, how was it at Origin? You don't really speak. So, but obviously from watching Origin, for me, that looks like the toughest environment of a game that I've ever seen. Like the hype is massive. Everyone's like completely up for the game. It's like a grand final every single game. So that's how I see it as a spectator. And I just think, what is it like to be in that situation, being in Origin? Is it as tough as it looks? Is it the hardest game that you've ever played in, kind of thing? Is that kind of what it's about? Tell me what it's about a bit more.
Yeah, it's just another level. It's the quickest game you'll ever play, the most aggressive game you'll ever play, the toughest, and yeah, it's like like every game is like a grand final. Like every tackle is like they go in to take your head off.
Yeah.
And I was only 20 years old when I made my debut in Origin. Yeah, and I'm looking at it felt surreal being in that stadium. Playing alongside some of the guys are immortals now. But yeah, at the same time, I knew that I belonged there.
Yeah.
If they like, I was confident in my ability to be able to play alongside the best in the world.
Yeah.
At 20 years old.
Yeah.
I had that confidence, but I wasn't. I didn't walk around and show it off. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Because I'm just thinking back from when you used to play, when we used to play together. Like your prep is a little bit similar. Like I don't like to speak much in the change rooms. I kind of keep myself to myself, kind of unassuming. You always had your headphones on. I always, like I say, I literally speak to him. I used to speak to Liam next to me, and then just like get my headphones on. I used to go into the physio room and stretch off or whatnot for like the first half an hour, because it kind of I got too nervous anyway. So like I didn't want to add more nerves to that situation. So I just had to take myself away. So you, in that respect, you're like kind of, you've got your headphones on and you're just doing you, like, so I kind of see where like you're just keeping yourself to yourself. Is like, is that your way of chilling, or is that the way of like your preparation?
Yeah, I think I've always been like that. I just zone in, and I don't want, like, you see other boys will be laughing and joking and like just mucking around in the sheds, but I could never be like that. And I think now it's like I didn't realize how stressful it was until I retired. Like, putting you, like, just mentally, like, going through that, even though you've done it 100 times, you still feel the same. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Right. Like, so my Danielle and my missus, she basically used to say, like, I would be, so from a Thursday, I think this is one reason why there's a lot of like drug, alcohol, and vice use in the sport, because for the first week, so for me, like Danielle would say, from say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like my head's just focused on the game. Like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm starting to think about the game, like, and I start to be a bit more edgy. I was a bit more like quiet, and I was always like, started to like act differently, as in like I was just focused on training. I was focused on this, like, and I was a bit vacant in certain situations, family situations, and sitting down for dinner even, or I was like focusing on video or whatever I was doing. So I was like kind of, even though I didn't look like I was doing much, I was always like kind of starting to switch on a Wednesday or a Thursday. So then you have a 3-day lead up. So then Friday, then you've got captain's run Friday, say, and game on Saturday or whatever, however it works out. So then you're then almost even more like stressed, and working yourself up. So that's why by the time it got to a Saturday or a Sunday, whenever we're playing, I was like you. I wanted to kind of not. I couldn't dick around and like just be like people are laughing and joking. I just couldn't switch on like that because I've been building up for the whole week. I've been switching on for the whole week. So then for someone to be like a little bit like, oh, just we're playing this or just like taking the piss, it just like it grated on me a bit. I was a bit like, well, it's annoying because I couldn't, more than anything. I wish I could probably do that and just be like, just switch it on, but I can't because I'm not an overly aggressive person. It takes me the full like few days to like really rev myself up because I'm quite a chill, quite quiet guy, and until I get on that pitch, when I was like, that's when I would be aggressive. But aside from that, I'm not, and I'm quite quiet. And my missus would be like, the only time I relaxed was when that game was over for the next day or two, and we're kind of off. So then that relaxation becomes, let's just go and party because that was my only release. So for the whole week, I'm like building myself up in this way. I don't know, obviously, if you're any similar because you're a quiet guy like me in that sense.
Do you feel you played the game in your head a lot of time before the game?
100%, mate. 100%. I couldn't sleep. Mate, I'm like ruminating like stupid moves. Like I'm not even joking. So I'm going through the plays, looking at who I've got in front of me. So I've got this line of 4 in front of me. I'm thinking what line I'm going to use, if I'm going to run overs, run unders, and I'm going to go out, and I'm going to lift, I'm going to flip pass with him, or looking at the video, is he going to tackle me on the inside? Am I going to go round? Like I'm thinking all these things, but then you overthink. Like you sometimes overthink.
Yeah, 100%. And people have asked me, like, do you miss it? And I think about that. I think about, the process of getting your head right and all the little things you make sure that you tick during the week, just to get yourself right. And that's probably the one thing I miss the least. Like, have all that whole build up just for, I wouldn't say just for, but like an 80-minute game, which you do for a living. Like the game hasn't changed. You still got 13 players in front of you. Like, but yeah, the things that you put yourself through mentally. It's a lot of times it got a little bit too much, and then sometimes I did play the game in my head before I'd run out.
Yeah, but then those times when you do overthink the game, that's when the mistakes happen because you're overthinking. You're catching a ball, even like you start to think, oh god, if I get in that position, you start to think, oh, when I drop the ball, or if I drop the ball, this is gonna happen. Then you start to like overthink. You start to errors creep in, and then you knock yourself up for those errors, and you put yourself down for those errors. I don't know if you're like that, but if something happened negative towards me, then I would always be my own worst critic. I'd be like, God, like I know I've done bad, and it's quite hard for me. Then it was quite hard for me to then recover because I'd always be putting myself down for the whole game, no matter what, even if I just made that one little mistake. But the best, I think, a lot of the good players who can just brush that off and then do something 2 minutes later and then just cancels it out. Whereas I always thought about that for most of the game, unless I did something spectacular. I don't know if you're similar in that respect.
Yeah. If I drop the ball, if I knock the ball on, the next time I'm about to receive the ball is like, don't knock this on, don't drop this ball. Yeah. And then you catch it, like you're overthinking it, and then you catch it, and then you like a lot of the times I was so focused on catching the ball and not worried about the play after or play when I got the ball. I wouldn't dwell on the mistake, but I'd be thinking the next play, just catch the ball or just make this tackle. I think as I got older, I was able to be a lot better and block it out. But definitely when I was younger, it would play in my head, and I'd be worried about my family watching the game. Yeah. Worried about fans are thinking. I'm worried about what the coach is thinking. I'm worried about you just knock the ball on 10 meters out of your line and you got to defend the line and you're out in the centers. Like you're not in the. You've got all these other players working hard and you're just out there just taking a break. Yeah. All those things would just play in my mind.
So the video session would play on my mind. Just, you know, you just think, oh, I'm gonna get absolutely ruined in video for that.
Yeah, that was the worst, especially, you know, you played a bad game. A lot of the times I would look at the clips, like sometimes you'd see the clips coming up and you're like, all right, or you look at the minutes, I'm like, yeah, that's a time when I missed that tackle and they scored. Like, so you're just dreading that.
So let me just talk on the Bulldogs for a minute. So like you were kind of obviously you kind of gelled in that side. So like when I was at Lyon, like and I felt like I was like belonged and like was gelling in that side. It was I think the mental side and in terms of stress, I had a lot less stress because I felt like and a lot less preparation for the week because I felt like I felt that those couple of years I wasn't worried as much about my prep, but I played better because I was probably more relaxed and like I wasn't ruminating over like we just spoke about like, oh, I'm going to drop this, I'm going to do this play, I'm overthinking things because I felt like it was just coming naturally because I think I had the support of my teammates, my peers more than anything, but I also had support of the coach because the coach at the time was saying to me, just back yourself, you're doing well, anything you get, if you fuck up, it doesn't matter because I know you'll do something right in you know next play or whatever. So that having that confidence instilled in me from my peers and my coach, that really did help me. So was it similar in that respect?
Yeah, definitely. Because we were so young, you know, I was 20 years old, you know, Sonny was 18 years old, Rennie 2021. We didn't have much expectation, I don't think. Maybe we did, I just didn't know. But we just went out there and played footy. And our coach, Steve Post, he passed away a couple of years ago. But yeah, he just gave us a freedom to play. Yeah. And I think now a lot of the boys are getting overcoached. Yeah, I think that can play on your mind too. If you're being overcoached and you're not playing to your strengths, not playing what you're good at. And but we didn't have that at the Bulldogs. It was like just play footy, just play what you said. And I think that's why, you know, especially in that first year, why we were so successful because we didn't worry about anything else. We just played and had fun.
Yeah. So with so then like if I want to kind of still touch on the fact that with the kind of mental health side of things, if we go, so like my hardest time was injuries for me. Like and I know that you've had a whole swathe of injuries. Like I think you had more injuries. I think you had more operations than I have injuries, to be honest. But my that was the hardest point for me, not being so like again, I found it hard to fit into a side and whatnot. So me being out of the side and kind of sidelined when things aren't going well for the team or when things aren't going well for you because you're injured, I found that really difficult. And I know I probably should have just like grown thicker skin or something, but I found those times when I'm injured, that was when you should be like doing all these things more. Like you should be doing more and more to help yourself get back. But when you feel marginalized and sidelined anyway as it is, and then you've got an injury to deal with, it's like kind of how do you go about it? I struggled with that. Luckily, I was only injured once or twice in my time. I did a knee and then I did my hip and then I retired. So, but I just couldn't deal with it. But so how did you manage to? You've had knees, shoulder recons, everything, haven't you? So how did you manage to stay focused and come back on those like when you've had those operations and sidelines for ages?
I think for me was you know, wanting to prove, like, and that's how I've sort of from when I first came into the league, into the game. I always had something to prove. Yeah. And I remember the first time I did my knee and I was out. I just finished playing for Australia, like my. So I played for Australia in like an Anzac test, and then a couple of weeks later, done my knee. And I remember being at a pub and I was talking to some random dude, and then he told me, he said, something along the lines of, I think you're going to just be a one-hit wonder. And I was 21 at the time, and he was just naming the centers that were coming along, like Mark Gasnier was, on fire, and then like he was the Australian center after, and Justin Hodges, and I don't know, like I had that conversation with him when I was 21, and I still remember that conversation. And I've been injured. I'm like, all right, I'm going to prove him wrong.
Right.
And then I've heard other people say, yeah, you're done. You're never going to be the same player. And maybe I wasn't, or maybe I don't know. I don't feel I ever got back to the 2004 the way I was playing that year. But just in the back of my mind, I was like, I always want to prove those people wrong that said that, I'd never make it, or I was done. And throughout my whole career, like I've always had that.
Yeah. But it's a good driving force though. Like I know that everyone uses different things, and like if some, like I didn't like that side of things when you would hear like the odd comment on Twitter or whatever it was at the time, or in forums or something, you'd hear something crap. But a lot of the time, it's just a lot of haters. What I mean? Just people who are just hating on you, and like there's a good amount of people obviously would definitely say that you at the time you were killing it. So. But I think as humans, we tend to listen to negative feedback, don't we? Negative criticism, and we hang on that. So I think like you've used that and held on it. Like I think that's what you
do. And a lot of people try and say that they don't care about what other people think, but I think deep down we all care to an extent about what people think, and whether it's your family, your friends, your teammates. Like, I found that early to just worry about, the people I care about, what they think, and and I still got, I've been caught up in, thinking about what people are saying and what the fans are saying, and what the coaches might be saying, but. It's something that I feel a lot of fans just might, say that you played a bad game and start talking shit about you, but they don't realise the effect that it has on that person. And I know a lot of people, a lot of the boys, they do go on those forums and they read right into it.
Yeah.
And mentally, it's not going to put you in a good place.
No, it's going to be. That's like it is awful. But then you've got a lot of people would say, well, what a lot of people do say that are you professionals? You should be able to just deal with that kind of criticism. But like they're not the ones sat in our shoes and having to take. You're always looking for a little pat on the back somewhere, and you always just want someone to go, all right, you're doing well. Like that's it. And like I think coaches these days. Well, I don't know. I'm not surrounded by rugby anymore, really. But I'd like to think that coaches these days are a little bit more able to recognise when someone needs a pat on the back and when someone doesn't, and also like are able to maybe just dangle a carrot when they need it to be when they need some kind of recognition, or first and foremost stay off social media and stuff like that. Like have little guidelines. Are you still involved with coaching or anything at the minute?
No, I do a little bit of one-on-one coaching.
Yeah.
Just involved with a business called Playbook, and they've got all these coaches from whatever sport you can think of, and whoever wants coaching can just go on their website and whether it's rugby league or swimming or cricket or whatever, if they want to be coached one-on-one, they can just go online and find that coach. And I think it's good because a lot of kids, they go to training and they might only have one coach, and they've got like 20 boys in the team or 20 girls in that team, they want that one-on-one coaching. So
that sounds sick. That sounds really good. So is that like just Aussie? Is that Aussie based? Just Aussie only, or is that worldwide?
no, I think it's just in Australia at the moment. But yeah, before coming on board, I had no interest of coaching. I've always said once I'm done with the game, I'm done. I hardly watch footy at the best of times, but yeah, since I've been coaching these one-on-one sessions, yeah, it's cool to see a kid not know something, and then all of a sudden they've picked that skill up and they're able to do it. Like I don't know, it's cool to see that, and I find it's more rewarding, when you're able to teach other kids the knowledge that about the game.
Yeah, definitely. Something that I definitely like. I'm interested in more and more. The more I like, kind of doing my coaching myself, but like personal training coaching is totally different. But like getting into sport specific stuff would be something that I'm like really starting to like think about more and more, because like you said, it's just nice to see you can pass on some knowledge and see that actually developing a young lad or a girl, whatever. But like I think more since I've had a baby, that's given me that kind of wanting to mold something, because obviously you see him trying to mold your kid. You just want to pass on that knowledge, and he's too young at the minute. He's too young. He's only 2, but like that's why now I feel like it'd be good to be able to like help people out, because like I mean I'm only 31 myself, but like it's the fact that I'm like unable to play rugby anymore because of my hip, which is like gutting really, but it is what it is. But like that now I still got that kind of drive to want to play and have that kind of drive to want to be competitive. So like I could do the next best thing is kind of live through vicariously through someone else and coach, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think that's like the goal, I suppose. But I want to kind of steer it away and kind of go back to what we were saying in terms of, because I've got quite a few people lined up talking about like the whole situation with COVID and whatnot, and everything being like a big focus on mental health. So I'm trying to like, my next few guests are all going to be talking about mental health issues and what they're doing. I've got a guy on talking about his app and mental health fitness app kind of thing. So in light of that, I want to kind of go back and speak about the challenges that it is as a sportsman, the challenge it is as a sportsman then coming out of sport, and the challenges that we face in terms of in terms of like we said before, like the mental strains that we go through a week, how that has affected on our mental health, how we go from being in a really masculine male developed male environment where we can't really say much about our feelings or say much about what we do, so we kind of take it out on ourselves by either drinking, taking drugs, partying, whatever the vice is, tramadol, bloody diazepam, all these things that people start to take and whatnot, and start to become addicted to because of the stress and strains of rugby. I think it happens a lot in rugby, and obviously we can talk about because we've been in there. But I think it's like because of that I think for me it was more like self-punishment. So to say, so the fact that I was injured, I kind of thought, right, well, it's your own fault. Kind of, there's no one really can talk to because the physio, you just sit in the physio room, you sat on your back. So that's when I kind of self-destructed, was when I was injured, and probably the worst time to do so is because I felt like I needed to punish myself for not performing. I don't know, that it sounds daft, but what was your kind of experiences with, like, say, because did you drink much? You weren't really a big drinker, or well, I suppose in the Bulldogs you could not have been a drinker because everyone was a drinker in the Bulldogs.
Yeah, it was like that was the culture. That was the Bulldog culture. It was like train hard, play hard, drink hard.
Yeah.
That year in the grand final, we were out every single weekend.
Yeah.
And we were going hard.
Yeah.
But we made sure that when we got to training on Monday, we made sure that we had our head on it, and we didn't sort of muck around. And that was the culture. I guess for me, the hardest thing was injuries, but as you know, when you're injured, you're not around the main group.
No.
Like there's times where, there'd be days or a couple of weeks where I wouldn't even see the boys, especially at the Bulldogs. I'd have to come in, get my physio early before they train. I'm training by myself, and you don't have that interaction with those boys. And I'm not sure if it's changed now, like if they sort of have the injured boys come in and watch sessions or things like that. But I remember not even being part of like the video sessions or anything. So that was a tough thing for me.
Yeah.
And I experienced it throughout my whole career. So, once you're injured, you're left by yourself and everybody's forgotten about you. And you're going through troubles alone. And like you said, because it's a male dominated sport, we've got the girls now playing and the females and stuff like that. But like I know throughout my whole career that I would never, pull one of the boys aside and say, I'm feeling like shit, I'm feeling down. Like those conversations just never happen.
No. And even now, like when it's being talked about more, I don't think it still is happening. Like I don't think it is. So like you because what you'll have like an intervention, you'll go in, like they'll say, oh, we need to do more about it, so they'll put a bit of funding into sport or rugby or whatever. Then you'll get someone come in from some kind of I don't know, society or some kind of charity talking about when someone's had a bad time, when someone's tried to commit suicide or vice versa, or whatever happened, then they'll come in and talk about it, but then it'll be forgotten about. As soon as those people walk out that door, it's just forgot about. It's probably even laughed about when you're having a chat, like you're having a feed. It's probably laughed about, and that's how I felt like the money that people are putting into these funds and charities to try and help people's mental health. It's just a cue card where someone just goes, it's just a tick box. Oh yeah, someone's come in and talked about it. What's your kind of view on it?
Yeah, I feel a lot of the times, especially with my experience, it just would go through one ear out the other. And you're right, a lot of the boys would probably just laugh it off, and we think that I know it gets said a lot, but how they say it's weak to speak. Like I genuinely thought that it was weak to speak.
Yeah.
But if I did speak out about how I was feeling and even show a little bit of vulnerability, that one of the boys are going to start laughing at me, or one of the boys are going to think that I'm soft. And to go back on that, I remember throughout my whole playing career, and I don't know why I even thought this. I think it's because you feel that you've got to be macho and you've got to be hard and whatever. And then when people would say they've got depression, I'd always look at them and I would judge them. I would always I'd use that as a cop out, or I'm like, just man up and like whether they got done drink driving or there was whatever incident they might have been involved in, and they'd say, oh, they've got depression. I always look down on them and go, nah, you're saying that because you're not man enough to accept what you did.
Yeah.
And that was my whole mentality. That was the way that I retired. And I feel guilty in saying that because the story with Brenny.
Yeah.
He's my best mate, and he was diagnosed with depression, and I get it.
But like the thing is, like I got when I was younger, so I was like 19. I got actually this is how early I got like kind of I don't really speak about it, but when I got actually diagnosed with depression when I was 19, like so that's like well early for a start. And then doctors used to say to me, "Oh, you just take these citralopram, these pills, whatever, you'll be fine." So when I was playing at Saints, so from 19, this is when I was like, found it hard to fit in and whatnot. I was going home and beating myself up like mentally, like all the time, because I was like, how do I fit in? How do I gel in this scenario? Because I'm quite academic. Like I was always like a school kid, a bit like a geeky kind of kid who just like was good at sport. Do you know what I mean? And then just kind of, I found it hard transitioning from being. I was sporty in school, yeah, but then once it went to a professional environment, I was the geek of the group, and I found it, like I was saying before, I found it really hard to fit in. So then I ended up going through a bit of a dark spell. This is at 19 as well, so like I've always had on and off bouts of it, but it's always been in like waves for me. It's not really been like I've been in a dark place for months and months and months. It's been like, you know, weeks on end, then I'll come out because something good will happen, as in like I'll get picked for rugby, or I'll get some good news, or I'll get a pat on the back. And then I lived these cycles of ups and downs, peaks and troughs all the time through my career, because I was just waiting for someone to give me a pat on the back, a bit of gratification, because I think I'd lacked that kind of pat on the back as like a kid kind of growing up. Don't get me wrong, my dad and mum were always supportive and everything, but I just felt like being the second child felt a little bit like oh, I was always trying to compete for attention. And I know that sounds pathetic, but that's how I think that my kind of mental state was, and that's why I ended up being diagnosed with anxiety, depression kind of thing, which I dealt with for like 19, when I was 19, 20, and I came off the tablets because they made me feel like less focused. I couldn't really think on my feet in terms of doing my doing my homework and doing, like, you know, well academically in like science, maths and whatnot. I couldn't like think on the spot quick enough. And again, it translated into rugby as well. I couldn't, like, certain situations where, like, you know, you need to like think reactively, where like you've got to either flick a ball on, or you've got to like do something just off the cuff. It found that those things were slowed down for me. So like, I know exactly where you're coming from in the sense that you're talking about this mental health thing, but like, I was from the other side, so I knew from the start what this felt like, to be in a dark place for like extended periods of your life. So like for me, it was like waves, and like for obviously Rennie there, like you said, that seems to have been like an accumulation of something negative. And obviously, I want to get Rennie on and speak to Rennie about it myself, but I don't want to, because I don't want to like bring Rennie into it without asking too much permission. But what happened to me, I'm using a story, is a person I used to play with. I won't say his name because obviously I haven't got his permission. So I used to play with a guy in similar kind of circumstance, where I think because I'd been through the feelings, the signs of depression and what, I was a little bit more aware at this time. So I was playing with this guy, and it was 7 o'clock in the morning. I just after a game, I'd just been out after a game, so it was like a Sunday Monday kind of thing. We just ended up at 7 o'clock in the morning. You know, you just got a taxi in. You're like, God, you're just about to put your head down. I'm getting these texts on. I'm just looking up, and they're like, you know, oh, I love you, bro. Like, I hope you and Danielle are good, and blah blah blah. And I'm just having a conversation on text. And then the text started to get a little bit more, well, that again, for a start, love you, bro, was a little bit of a red flag. Like, why? Like, I know we're good mates and stuff, but we don't really speak like that, especially in the rugby community. Like, usually say, oh, yeah, like, catch you soon, bro, or whatever. But it started to get a bit deeper. And then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to message the doctor at the time. And I messaged the doctor saying, look, this lad, one of the boys, is talking a bit out of context. It just doesn't seem right. And this is, bearing in mind, this is 7 o'clock in the morning. I've not been to bed yet, pretty much. And I'm there thinking, right, something's got to, like, kind of, something's not right. I spoke to the doctor said, oh, like, kind of, if you're unsure, just keep a conversation going, see what's going on, kind of thing. So I've tried to ring him, but he's just not answered. So these texts are getting more and more, like, there's only like 3 or 4 texts, but the spelling mistakes are starting to come in. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So then I just think, right, something's got to happen here. So I ring the ambulance, the police and the ambulance, saying, look, I think one of my pals is not doing too well, because going back, he was having a bit of troubles with his girlfriend at the time, and I kind of knew a bit like he was having a bit of troubles, and he wasn't getting in the team at the time, and all that I think accumulated to the fact that he got to this point. And anyway, so I've rang the ambulance and the police service, and then I couldn't remember for the life of me what his address was. Like, what's his address, blah blah blah. But by this time the texts are like the last text was like, love you, man, and then it just went like XXX, but then it just like why blah, blah, loads of just random like whatever. He just mashing the keyboard at this point. So I rang the police, and then the police like, where's he live? I was like, I haven't got a clue. Like, I know where he lives to drive, but I didn't say this to them, but I was like, I've been up all night, like, so I'm not really in the state to drive. But I thought it's either drive or this guy might not be here tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? So I thought, right, just track my phone. The police said, can I track your phone? Is it all right? I said, yeah, sound. I'm just jumping in the car now. So I jump in the car. It's like 25-minute drive away. And so I'm driving, and I just know how to get from my house at the time to his. I know the route, but I just didn't know the address. So they're following me, basically. They're following my phone, basically. And then I pull up into his like estate kind of thing. And then literally 2 seconds later, 2 police cars, 2 ambulances come flying past me. And then I'd just say to him, look, I think he might take an overdose, just go in. So he kind of just barge in the door. His mum and dad open the door. He's like in the house with his mum and dad. And his mum and dad don't know any of the wiser. They barge in, and I said, obviously, I spoke to him. He's kind of upstairs, blah, blah. They get him upstairs, pull him out of his house, and he's completely lifeless kind of thing. And so he'd taken an overdose. I think he's taken like 50 Valium or something stupid, something crazy. And so they've wheeled him out of the house, and he's in the street and stuff, and he's on a stretcher and whatnot, and they just take him to the hospital, and that's like kind of all I saw of him. But then obviously he gets on a drip, and he manages to be all right, but he ends up having a really bad bleed and whatnot, and his stomach, things go bad. But I think that I kind of knew the telltale signs a bit of how he was feeling, because the weeks before he wasn't feeling great, and I could see that, and we were talking about certain stuff, and then when obviously I kind of recognized that, and then even me being kind of lucky that I was up, to be honest. It was lucky that I was awake at 7 a.m. and I've gone straight. It's like fate that I was there, and I know that he would have spoke to me, because he probably messaged me because he knew that I would have jumped and thought. I think in those times of like, he's obviously it's a cry for help. To send that message is a cry for help, and I think knowing how I would have responded, I think he knew that was his lifeline in a way, that I would have gone, right, okay, something needs to be done, and I did, and luckily I was there. And obviously you've got a similar story, and like this is just 2 examples of 2 people who have played professional rugby. But imagine the people who aren't playing professional, or imagine the people who aren't around. So like you had that similar situation. Obviously you don't need to go into details, but like similar kind of thing happened to you.
Yeah, I think now that I think about it, I'm not sure if Rennie, there were signs with Ren, and Ren, like he's pretty much the life of the party. Like everybody loves Ren, and you joke around, and I don't think there was I didn't notice any difference with him at training, outside of training. So there weren't any signs that, to me, that he was going through anything. And I wish now that, what I know now is totally different, but I wish I was able to see those signs, how little they might have been, and just pull them aside and just, put all that macho rugby league bullshit out of the side, and just say, Ren, are you doing okay? Like, let's talk about things. And I think, again, going back to what you said, like, we get caught up in worrying about, what people are going to say or think of us if we open up to them, or if we start sharing our feelings or being more vulnerable. And I think, the NRL. The game is getting better. Maybe on professional level in all sports. But I feel that it's still got a long way to go. I know that injuries. Speaking to somebody since I've been retired, I didn't know that I was going through depression because I would turn to alcohol, I would turn to painkillers, I would turn to all these other things just to numb myself from the way that I was feeling.
Yeah.
So, I played 16 years, and it wasn't until I retired in 2017. It wasn't until 2018 where I found out that all those times where I was injured and I wouldn't return anybody's calls, and I was binging on alcohol and taking prescriptions just to block things out, and that I was going through depression.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
So did you? So I think it's quite common. I think it's very common, to be honest, that you don't think you're going through some kind of anxiety, depression, or whatever, because, like you said, you do numb it, and even though you don't believe that you're doing anything, even though you don't think that you're kind of that your coping mechanism is alcohol, or your coping mechanism is a prescription drug or whatever, but that is still you're just masking pain. That is still depression. But people, I think more and more, especially sportsmen, rugby players, will do this because if you think now, imagine how many of the boys would have to take XYZ prescription to get to sleep because they end up getting using that as a weekly routine or a daily routine. Like I can just think of 10 names in my head straight away. And it's almost an epidemic problem. Do you know what I mean? That this happens, but purely because I think like you said, that I think it is still the conversation isn't there amongst peers. And it isn't, even though they say it is. I don't think that many people will be able to drag a person to a side, especially in a group of 3 or 4, and say, "Look, boys, this is happened to me, or this is how I'm feeling." I think it's less even. It's even less likely because I think, from my point of view, I wouldn't want to do it because then I'd feel like they might say something to the coach, or they might say something to someone else. It might be negative on my selection or my performance or whatever. That's why I wouldn't want to do it more than anything. And I don't know how that would be changed at the minute, because how would we change that? I think that's the root thing, being able to not worry that this might get back to someone, because at the end of the day, no matter what you say to a player or a player's player, someone else who you're in the sheds with, that could work against you negatively because they're potentially going for your position. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. With me, I was too worried about what they were going to think of me.
Yeah.
And when I was going through all of that, and I was binging and doing all of that, I thought that no one knew how bad I actually was.
Yeah.
And in saying it, as close as I was to Rennie, Sonny, boys like that, I always felt that if I did tell them, they were going to look at me differently, going to judge me, and that's the biggest thing that I was scared of. And now looking back at it, I know that they would have loved to for me to tell them everything and just to be open. And I think if I knew what I did now back then, I'd openly just tell them how I was feeling and what I was going through.
Yeah.
And so I think we, going back to what I said earlier, we get caught up in you know, the macho-ness of rugby league, and you know, we're not allowed to be vulnerable or, you know, share our feelings to the boys, you know, in fear of what they're going to think of us.
Yeah. But deep down, ultimately, we're all the same kind of people. We're all just these lads trying to like get a pat on the back and trying to do the best for the team and the best for ourselves, trying to make our families proud and trying to make our peers proud, trying to not let our friends down, trying to let the boys down and not let the fans down. So what you can probably take from it is the fact that everyone is in the same boat, and even if they're not in the same boat at that period in their life, they probably will be in a boat, or someone will have been in that experience, had that experience or similar feelings in rugby or in professional sport. They will have felt like this at some point in their life. So
Yeah.
I think that now I've left and whatnot, I've kind of doing this and trying to be able to speak about it is kind of how I can help other people feel that they're not like alone and stuff. But I think that I wish that I had probably been a bit more open. I was a bit like you, like I was very said like just took it out myself, just punished myself, like, you know, drink and do whatever was kind of detrimental to myself, to punish myself, to kind of escape it more than anything. And I wish that there was kind of these conversations, these dialogues that people could listen to and open up when I was there, because then maybe, you know, I wouldn't have got into certain situations, and maybe I could have helped other people as well along the way, because it's obviously not just me, it's obviously not just you. Look, you kept it quiet for how many years while playing rugby, and you just got on with it quietly, you know. So how, like, that's even, you wouldn't want anyone else to go through that, what you went through, would you? That's what you kind of want to avoid. You don't want someone to stay silent for a 10-year playing, a 16-year playing.
Definitely. And I think the more conversations that I've had with players that are retired, every single one of them have gone through the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think they've all thought the same thing as well. You know, kept it to themselves, not comfortable in speaking to it to their mates, or I don't know, maybe they've found people to speak to about it, but I've found that every single one of the boys that I've spoken to that's retired, they've all got a similar story.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm fortunate enough that you know, I've accepted it, and then I know how to get myself out of that funk where I see, you know, there's still boys that are struggling, that have been retired for, you know, 3, 4, 5 years, that are still trying to find themselves after footy.
Yeah. Well, it's a massive thing. That for me, apart from obviously being injured, that for me, once I finished and like once I was told I can't play because of my hip and stuff, that for me was the hardest 2 years of my life, because like it's been like pretty much 2 years now, because of the fact that you get that taken away, like I said at the very beginning, that structure taken away from you, and like you're so used to having a regimented like daily ritual. You get up, you do this, you've got this on a Monday, this on Tuesday, this on Wednesday. Once that's taken away from you, even me, who had an education and like I had all these things like running for me, like everything stopped at once. Like I had no rugby, I had no education, I had nothing. So it's like, and then to be told you can't play rugby again, you're just stuck in after you've just got out of the hospital. That for me was definitely the hardest time like of my life in terms of mental awareness. Everything was just like, I just went sideways, because it was all these structures went out of my life. Then I kind of took up like meditation, and I started to get structure in my day. I got myself like it's a diary book kind of thing, where you just kind of, I write my week out, and I literally plan my days, like in terms of, I'll have this. Obviously, you can't plan it so regimented with a baby, like everything gets thrown out of whack. But I tend to have Monday what I'm going to do, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I'll break it down into like, you know, morning, afternoon, evening, just to keep that structure in there. And if I don't do that thing, I'll feel like, oh, you know what, it's not the end of the world, but I like to try and stick to that, because once I fall off that, kind of wagging, I start to see other negative things creep in. Like I'll start looking at my phone. I know this is nothing, but start checking social media, or getting angry at yourself for social media, comparing yourself to other people. Then you start to have one glass of wine a night, a night. Then it could be, you end up having a couple of bottles a week. Then it's like, oh, I'll just have a bottle a night, and it just creeps up slowly and surely. It just starts to snowball. But once you keep that structure, I think this is how I've dealt with it: keeping a structure for myself and keeping myself accountable to myself, not anyone else. Just making sure that I'm happy with what I'm doing and not listening to what anyone else expects of me or anybody else's opinion of me. As long as I'm kind of sticking to my own structure, my plan for my week, then I seem to be a lot better, and that's how that's how I've dealt with it now. Like, obviously, how do you know? How do you deal with it? What's your little ritual or method?
Yeah, I'm totally the same. It wasn't until maybe 6 months post footy where I found that it was structure and routine is what I was missing in my life, and once I got that in, and I started training, and just and at the time I just thought it wasn't nothing, but just eating right as well.
Yeah.
Like mentally, I had I was post footy, like that 6 months, like I was in a pretty dark place, and I didn't open up to anybody, and I was staying with a few friends down in Sydney, and there was a lot of times where I wouldn't even come out of the room, and I didn't think nothing of it. But then, now that I'm in like a much better place, since they pointed it out to me, I was like, I can see it for what it was now.
Yeah.
So that structure and that routine was something that I needed in my life, and I still have my days where I struggle. I'm still trying to, sort of navigate life, post footy, and but I know, like you said, once I had that routine and then structure in my life, then then I'm way better for it.
And you're still training every day. You still keep yourself fit every day, and while trying to.
Yeah, I feel if I miss a day, then I really feel it. Like, I feel like physically and mentally. So even if I'm not up for it, I've just said to myself, just go there. Just even if I'm going through the motions, just make that effort to go to the gym. Whether it's half an hour, 45 minutes or whatever, just do it. Because I know that when I walk out of that gym, my mind's a lot clearer. Like, I'm feeling like.
There's actually quite a lot of studies, and I read a book called.
I'm just going to turn this light on.
Yeah, man, don't worry about it. Go for it. Yeah, you were just disappearing there slowly but surely.
I saw the screen.
No, so there's this thing called, I think it's called 7 Habits. I can't find the book. It's around here somewhere. Anyway, it's about like habit loops and like forming positive and negative habits. And like one of the things that this guy said about like changing a negative into a positive, he goes deep in. I'll find out what it's called. I'll put the link in the show notes afterwards. But basically, he goes into say, even if you just turn it up, like you just said, even if you just turn it up. So a person who doesn't really exercise, just go to the gym. Just turn up to the gym. Just walk into the gym. Doesn't even matter if you don't do anything. Just turn up, walk into the gym. Even if you go home after 2 minutes, that's fine. You've got to the gym. So that's creating a little link in your brain that goes, right, okay, I get up, I go to the gym. So like what I do, I get up, I get up, go downstairs, go into. I've built a gym into my house now because of sick of gyms closing. So I go up, I'll sit in put the music on, meditate for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however long I feel, and then I'll stretch, and then I'll do my gym. So it's like just turning up though. This guy says if you just turn up, someone who's like goes from having like no, basically someone who's never done sport or never done any training in their life, if they just turn up every day, even if you just turn up to that gym, walk out after 5 minutes, next week they go for 6 minutes, they go for 7 minutes, they go for 8 minutes, that just builds up. After 2 weeks, that builds that habit loop in your brain that goes, right, I can do this now, this is what I do, I wake up, I go to the gym, and then it becomes like, oh, I'm just doing 30 minutes, then it just becomes habitual, like a negative habit loop becomes positive because of repetition. So That's exactly like kind of what that's kind of how I use now. I'm training people and like helping people. That's kind of I've got this woman at the minute. I've been coaching, and she's like not trained for 6-7 years. She used to be a gymnast or whatnot, but she's just not done anything for 6-7 years. She's like had kids and just let herself go kind of thing. But what I've just been doing with her is literally just that kind of on that ilk is just get up and make sure you just do a 3K walk today, and like making sure that I'm seeing that she's doing it, recording it on the Strava and whatnot, and just making sure she's doing it, just having that accountability. And it's only been 2 weeks. She's just a different person. It's mad how just a little bit of exercise, just a little bit of feeling good, and a little pat on the back, a little bit of recognition that I'm just giving her is like enough to make her change her. I can see it already. It's only 2 weeks since she like changed her life. So that's kind of the rewarding side of it. And I think that that's like kind of, again, trying to teach people that you do need these structures, you do need these like positive influences in your life, and these positive habits for everyone does, not just rugby players, not just sportsmen. Everyone needs it. Everyone needs structure. Everyone. So if like going away, just to sign off, because I've got a class in like half an hour. I've got to do. Just sign off like because it's like a fitness mindset motivation kind of. That's the theme of like what I'm trying to get across. Like what for you, if you had like so you've got speaking to the younger you, or a younger kid coming through, or a younger 16, 15, however old they are, what would be your advice to them in terms of pursuing a professional sports career or not, or like going down an academic route? What would your advice from your years of playing sport and just living your years, what would your advice be to a younger you, say, or a younger me coming through, or just a random person coming through? What would your advice be? Like just briefly, what you can think of to better steady the ship through life, and to better deal with life. Like if you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough one. I'd say work hard, and I know that this gets thrown around a lot, but what I've seen is that there's so many talented people out there. Like talent, you see it everywhere. But if you don't, what I've seen, if you don't apply hard work to whatever you want to do, like whether it's academically or in sports or whatever it may be, like you just won't go anywhere. And I've seen it so many times where kids will come down from the country or whatever, have all the talent in the world, but and they know they're talented, and so they think that they don't have to work as hard as the guy next to them, the girl next to them. So yeah, for me, work hard, and if I was speaking to my younger self, would be to stay the course. Like remember why I'm doing it, and it's because I fell in love with it. Like fell in love with the game. Yeah. And yourself, there's a lot of outside influences come, and a lot of people trying to knock you off, and trying to take you off course. And I fell into that a lot of times, where rugby league wasn't my focus, and I started to focus on other things that took me off the path that I wanted to be on. I don't know. Is that making sense?
Yeah, 100%. I think adding to that, like, if what I would kind of say, if to my younger self as well, is the fact that I think I wish I had set goals. Like I wish I had set goals earlier in my life. I never really set goals. I had like things that I wanted to achieve in my career in my head, but I never really wrote them down, and I never really said to myself what I wanted to, like a month, something monthly, something weekly, something yearly, something 5 yearly, and then that can be tweaked and changed every month or every year. Like that can be always changed, but that would have kept me a little bit more structured, knowing, and it also like structured in what I want to achieve that month, that week, that year, whatever. But it would have also, when there was times when I knew I was falling off and it wasn't going to align with my goals, then I would probably be able to have a talking to myself, because at the end of the day, it's always down to you. It's not, no one else is going to do it for you. No one else is going to slap you across the head and say, right, not many people will say, right, you're doing this wrong. And would you listen to them at the time? You probably won't listen to them, because you don't want to be told. Only you can hold yourself accountable. Only you can hold yourself accountable to that point where if you're doing something wrong, you need to be able to say, right, okay, is this in line with this goal? No, it's not going to help me. It's not going to help me achieve that. So, with what you said, I think that I wish you said you work hard and whatnot, but I think working hard comes with having structure again and having a goal always in mind, so you can reassess whether you are working hard to that goal or you're just taking the piss out of yourself. Because at the end of the day, it's only you who's going to suffer. At the end of your career, it's only you who's going to go, I wish I'd done this or I wish I'd done that. So you've got to think about that as you go along.
Yeah, definitely, bro. I agree.
Yeah, man. Right, man. I'm just gonna have to wrap it up because I've got to go and plan for a class now. But we should just catch up again sometime properly, where we can just have a chat, me and you, and we'll have a good catch up on FaceTime, because it's only a camera and you're only across the other side of the world. It's not that bad getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning for me. So we've got to do it again, man. Yeah. Right, brother. Take it easy. Have a good weekend and have a good Valentine's Day.
Hey, bro. Thank you.
Peace, man. Peace. See you later, bro.
Well, there you have it, episode 8. Now, obviously, a few things that's arose from this episode. Obviously, we've both been talking about issues that are really relevant in terms of mental health, mental well-being, anxiety, depression. So I really want to thank Willie for being as open as he could be and expressing how these things have affected him personally. And it was good to get a conversation and a dialogue going between me and him, as we're both similar kind of characters and have had similar issues during our playing careers. So I hope this episode really does reach someone, or it can be shared to someone who can benefit from this conversation and can see that even sportsmen, even anyone from any walks of life, these things can happen to. And it's good to get these conversations out there so that the stigma is abolished, because no one wants to be affected by these, but everyone is. And I just hope that this episode in particular can help someone. Now, if you could just do me a massive favour, it would really help the visibility of this episode and the podcast series itself. Just take a minute to give a rating on Apple iTunes and just leave a bit of feedback. That would go a long way to help out the algorithm, to help the discovery of this podcast, and to share these experiences with people with potentially having similar issues in their lives today, and dealing with it in silence like Willie did for so long in his career. Again, thanks Willie, and I will see you all next week for episode 9. Peace.